What is the worst thing that you have ever walked in on? My mom sucking my dad off in the living room as myself and my friends walk through the front door. I was in the lead and couldn't get turned around and out because they were blocking my exit. Damn dude. Your mom sucks. I was a young boy and had just gotten done watching it and was scared, so I went into my mom's room. As I was opening the door I was saying, "Mom, I'm scared." To my surprise, there was a guy on top of her just going to town. I slowly turn around and shut the door as I walk away. Go into the bathroom. Turn on the light. Step inside the tub and close the curtain. I just hid there. It would have been terrifying if the man slowly turned his head around, revealing that he was Pennywise himself. One, I walked in on my mom. Passed out. Spread eagle. 100% naked. I casually closed the door to her room and went back to my room, where my brother and I were playing video games, and said, "Hey, mom wants you." If I had to suffer, then by God, so did he. I told my older brother I was leaving the house for the day to go over to a friend's place. About 3 minutes into my walk over, I realized that I had forgotten something, so I turned around and headed back. I opened the door into the living room and found my brother with PRN playing on the computer and his dick between the couch cushions going f***ing crazy. He freaked out and started yelling at me, but I just grabbed my shitty and took off, trying to avoid eye contact. TL. My cousin with his dick in the vacuum looking at Pokemon PRN he printed out. I think the printed out part made it funnier. My nephew, who was 1 at the time, gumming the shitty out of his mom's DLDO while watching Blue's Clues. Oh. Poor baby. Please tell me you did not tell him about that later on in life. Not me, but my little brother. My cousin had come over and brought his girlfriend over. I already knew what they were going to do, so I just went to my room. I guess they were on the dining room table because my little brother walks in and I hear a www. Come on. I eat there. I just about suffocated from laughing so much. In college I always used a steam room at my gym, which is part of a large chain. At this particular gym there was a warning against engaging in inappropriate behavior. I never saw this warning at the other locations, so I didn't think much of it. I used it several times without incident. One time after my workout I entered the steam room and noticed that it was really crowded. It's a small room, maybe enough space for about 8 to 10 people. Okay. No big deal. I'll just stand. As my eyes began to adjust to the steam, I noticed a guy sitting in front of me leaning forward, resting his elbows against his knees. A guy sitting behind him on the second level up was massaging his scalp. Okay. I then notice that there is a guy next to the guy being massaged that is reaching over and pinching scalp dude's nipple. That guy was being jerked off by some guy next to him. To top it all off, there are 4 other guys on the other side of the room watching all this and jerking off. I don't go to that gym anymore. This thread is alternately outrageously hilarious and incredibly depressing. I've walked in on my parents having sex at least 5 times. Maybe more. See, my parents never slept in the same room. My mom in her bedroom, my dad on the couch in the living room. Never really knew why. My dad just never liked sleeping in a bed. Has been like this my whole life. Apparently, my dad doesn't like having sex in the bedroom either. So they do it in the living room. WTF. Every time I caught them, my dad in Russian would tell me, "Get out, I'm f***ing your mom." Forever traumatized. My mom. Masturbating. Shudder. Mom, this is exactly what it looks like. Dad going down on mom. Legs spread in the air. And dad in a face full of pubic hair. I was 11. Dad in a face full of pubic hair. Ah. The 80s. Hospital patient Vixen at the spry age of 76 somehow seduced the 40-something guy 1 room over. He walked in on them having vigorous anal sex. She took responsibility. Said it was her fault for leading him into temptation. And deliver us from anal. My drunken ex-wife trying to seduce my drunken little brother. She was 27 and he was 17. Things didn't end well. Go on. Guy F-king my girlfriend with her bent over the counter. They thought I was passed out. My naked grandma doing push-ups. My super religious grandma watching softcore PRN. No F-king way. When I was like 9-12, I'm terrible at remembering my age and stories. Went to a friend's house. We wanted to go to the park, so we went to his mom's room to go ask for permission. She was riding her boyfriend. Cowgirl style. And my friend just walks up to her all nonchalant and asks. And she responds all nonchalant with a yes without stopping. I was a bit too young to completely understand what was happening. Especially with how nonchalant they were. Looking back, I realize how f***ed up that woman was in the head. Saw my grandfather eating out my grandmother. I ended up moving out right after that. Did he at least have the decency to remove his teeth first? This really makes me hopeful that me and my wife are still sucking each other off well into our 60s and 70s. Probably tame compared to some things in this thread. About a year or two back, I was at a party. I knew two of my male friends had gone off for a serious discussion. However, they had decided to use the room where everyone had put their stuff. So, when I needed to grab a new drink from the supply I brought with me, I knocked on the door. From inside I heard what? I explained I needed to grab my bag. Already suspecting what was inside. You've got 10 seconds, I heard. I opened the door and went in. And sure as ever, the two were against the wall. One clung to the naked waist of the other, hiding his privates and glaring. I grabbed my bag, smiled and waved politely, and left them to it. What were they talking about naked? My grandparents having sex. It was like a mummy battle. Skeletor versus Mumra. I really had to go poop once. Ran into the bathroom, opened the stall, and a trucker was masturbating. We made awkward eye contact and a good 3 to 5 seconds passed as I slowly shut it and said sorry. I was 12. To make things worse, when we finally left the station, the trucker was the truck next to us on the freeway for a bit. My dad was a Vietnam vet and got out around 1970. His brother got severely injured and had to take the other brother out of combat. He then proceeded to get a job in the Federal Civil Service. After making his way up the ladder to be the manager of several aircraft hangars at North Island NAS. He would get emergency calls every now and then from high-ranking naval officers. One night after 1 AM, the phone rang and it was from an admiral that needed to talk to him. Since I slept in the living room, I went to go wake my father up. After knocking on my dad's door several times, I opened it up gently. The next thing I knew was I had to change myself, as my dad had thrown his Bowie knife at the door and stuck into the door jamb about 4 inches from my head. My dad quickly woke up and apologized by telling me he was having a bad dream again. That is a man that probably shouldn't have slept with weapons anymore. My father vomiting up blood and shitting himself after swallowing bleach. A lovely memory to remember him by. My husband f***ing his ex-wife. I walked in on my sister making out with my cousin. I noped right out of there. Edit. Guys. Sounds like Le Cousin's Dangerooks. I like the way they think. My own dad's dead body. 20 years ago. But it haunts me to this day. So blue and ground facing parts. Just horrible. I've told this story before. So here goes again. Right after college, I moved in with a few friends. They were really into drugs. So whenever they decided to stay home and take acid ecstasy, I would go out and drink. So one night they decided to do both. Later that night I came home and the house was very quiet, which was unusual. So I walked down the hall and opened my roommate's door. Nothing could have prepared for what I was about to see. My roommate is completely naked sitting on her bed. And she is wrist deep inside herself. She had been chewing on her bottom lip and blood is running down her chest. My other two roommates are trying to take care of her and calm her down, but they are rolling, tripping their dicks off and aren't much help. It was like a scene out of The Exorcist. Real F-ked up. TL. DR. Walked in on roommate fisting herself covered in blood. Edit. Really hope the people involved don't find this. I was sworn to secrecy. Sworn to secrecy. Keeps reposting story on Reddit. This guy's checks out. My mom after she shot herself. Cleaning up the blood off the walls and throwing out the bed will haunt me forever. Freshman year of college I was out drinking with some buddies. One of them got too drunk so I was taking him home. He was having a hard time walking even. So we get back to his dorm and I unlock his door and we see his roommate F-king this girl. His roommate was a big guy. The roommate seemed like he was about to pass out from exhaustion. It actually sounded like a wolf banging a princess. So I'm pretty surprised at that, and as I look away I realize that there is another couple in there also having sex. This whale of a woman is riding my buddy who had disappeared earlier that night. My drunk pal just hops in his bed and goes to sleep with all that around him. I started drinking again in an attempt to black out, but it didn't work. My younger sister walked in on my boyfriend and I while we were going at it. It's a damn good thing my back was turned and he was on bottom. Or else I think we would have scarred the poor kid for life. Our poor mother was forced to give what was probably the most awkward talk in the history of parenthood. Edit. No guys. You joke bro and I are not sisters. I guess this type of thing is just more common than I thought. My mom on her deathbed. I understood she was in the hospital and I understood things weren't good. But I'll never forget her face. She looked like a zombie. One eye partially closed with her eye hanging to the side. I think it F-ked with me a lot because she was fine the night before when I talked to her. She cut herself. She was on blood thinners due to a blood clot and she passed out and my stepdad found her in a pool of blood. She died later that evening. She was real lively. But I'll never forget her in that vegetative state with that zombified look on her face. One of the kids with Down syndrome whacking off in the school bathroom. He was getting down and dirty. My little cousin's molesting my dog. Made me sad. Sad that someone did that shit to him, I later found out. And sad that his mom is attracted to creeps. FCK. My college dorm mate beating off to PRNO mag with one hand while shoving a pen up his ass with the other. Edit. This happened in 1988 when the internet and its promise of virtually unlimited PRN was only a twinkle in our eyes. If you wanted to beat off to PRN back then your options were pretty much limited to PRNO mags. Out of desperation a Frederick's or Victoria's Secret catalog or even a copy of Clan of the Cave Bear could be substituted. When I walked in he was laying on his right side with the mag propped on pillows with his right hand working the junk and his left hand working the pen. I yelled out. What the FCK? Lock the door next time. Word got around pretty quick as several of my dorm suite mates were in the common area and heard me and asked what happened. This guy had other problems and moved out at the end of the semester. My college dorm mate beating off to PRNO mag with one hand while shoving a pen up his ass with the other. Dot. And I never chewed on a pen again. 12. 13ish at the time. Our families were close so we would just walk into one another's homes without knocking. I stepped into my neighbor's house to find the daughter on her back. Legs hiked up awkwardly around her dog as he rammed home into her. Noped and walked right back to my place. Didn't say hi or freak or nothing. My toilet had been acting up for a day or so. But I didn't think much of it. I went to sleep and when I woke up in the morning, my lungs hurt and the air smelled funny. I opened my bathroom door and saw shitty everywhere. It looked like someone had thrown a grenade of shitty into my toilet. My bathroom is tiny. It's just a toilet and a sink and it's like 4x4 in there. There was shitty all over the toilet. The walls. The sink. Mirror. Door. F-king everything. There was also bits of shitty toilet paper on everything too. Ugh. A girl I had an absolutely massive crush on being FK'd by her ex-boyfriend and my best friend. Not the same person. Edit. S. Great. This is blowing up. Do me a favor and read through the comments so I don't have to answer the same question a billion times and relive that moment again and again and again and again. And thank you for the gold. You're too kind. My sister and her boyfriend going at it. I walked in on my mom having sex. I didn't care about that. Like it was gross, but I wasn't scared for life. However, the conversation she tried having with me was terrible. I was 16 and now she thought it was time and justifiable to have the birds and the bees talk. Walked in on my parents having sex. 3 times. Let them finish, man. Goddamn. Some Kim teen kids who tortured a cat. Not the typical story, but when I was moving to a new house I walked in on a construction worker going through my digital camera. My dad being murdered. Saw him get shot. Edit. People seem interested in what happened. I was 3 and my mom's new BF was at the house. I come into the room just in time to see her new BF kill my dad. As a side note, he got away with it. Officially it's a suicide because it was my dad's gun. Only witness was a 3-year-old and he had money, so you know how that works. I think this gives you full license to go in and go Montoya on someone's ass. Walked in on my 16-year-old sister squirming around on the bathroom floor. Taking naked pictures for her boyfriend. My grandfather. Naked. Masturbating. I mean, seriously. Masturbating is awesome and all. But do you really need to be completely naked? Old people don't follow the normal rules of masturbation. Death and masturbation. I was probably about 2nd grade, so 7 or 8 years old. I was wearing these awesome Velcro Superman shoes. Thought I was invincible with those shoes. Was walking near a construction site and there was a board with some nails sticking through it. So I stepped on that shit. Hurt like hell. The construction dude was nice enough to carry me back to my parents' house. Lesson learned: Superman TM does not mean shit in real life. My boyfriend blowing my best friend. Edit. To clarify. I walked in on my parents going at each other. But they were in missionary position and I was behind them. They didn't see me. I was about 11 at the time. That was confusing as shit. That wasn't as bad as my ex-girlfriend's older brother walking in on us while we were 69ing. Worst part was that she was riding my face, sobering all over me as he opened the door to see his sister with my cock in her mouth and facing him on their parents' bed. He just slammed the door and shouted, "Why don't you f***ing lock the door?" To which we simultaneously shouted, "Why don't you f***ing knock first, asshole?" It was mortifying. To this day. Even after his sister and I went our own ways. He is still my friend and I see him frequently. I think about that moment every time. I wonder if he does too. Sigh. Student conference. Quad occupancy in the hotel room. 2 of the 4 brought home some random chick from the bar that night and they were going at her from both ends like a Chinese finger trap. When I came in they asked me if I wanted to join in. She was down. I was not. My sister and her drug dealing homeless ex-inmate on and off boyfriend having sex on my bed. She was 15. Ugh. Freshman year of college. Walked in on some random guy having sex with some random girl in my bed. My roommate was in his bed with his hand down his pants using it as a live PRN experience. Never rooming with the Dutch again. Dog shit. When I was about 8 years old I walked in on my grandmother changing in our guest bathroom. She was naked. I only saw a brief moment before my eyes actually stopped working. 3 doctor called it hysterical blindness. It only lasted a couple days. Thank goodness. More people need locks on their doors for SI time. Guy strangling a woman on my front lawn. I ran out, chased him, and beat his f-king ass. Walking in on my dad eating out my mum on the kitchen table. Absolutely traumatic. High school age. At a friend's house when we both exit her room. And the bathroom door is wide open revealing her younger brother, 15-year-old. I guess, completely naked and taking a shitty. He later went on to date my younger sister. This one time I walked in my living room whilst wearing Crocs. Probably the worst thing I've ever walked in on. I don't know if this is terrible or wonderful or both. But here goes. Freshman year I was walking through a friend's dorm and I heard a commotion coming from one of the rooms. As I reach the room, I see, through the wide open doorway, the following. There is a petite white girl on the bed. On her hands and knees. There are two large black men also on the bed. To her fore and aft. Making generous use of her various orifices. She appears to be an enthusiastic participant in these going-ons. There is a fourth figure in the room. It is another black individual. Smaller than the other two. He is sitting in a chair. Fully clothed. And appears to be encouraging the two on the bed. Saying things like yeah. FCK that bitch and yeah man. Get it? He isn't filming or masturbating or anything. He appears to be there purely for support. I only got a quick glimpse. But that was what I saw. I don't think they ever noticed me. I walked away and didn't look back.